let's go over all of Raft's blueprints. Hi friends, and welcome back to Raft. Today we're continuing my series of guides for Chapter 3, where I introduce you to all of the new game mechanics and how you can use them to your advantage in your own playthrough. The topic of discussion for today's episode is all of the blueprints in the game, and also all of the unlockable playable characters that you can discover throughout the world. Before I go any further, please note that there will be some spoilers in this video. I'm covering everything you can unlock one story location at a time, so you can always pause the video for wherever you are in the game, and then come back in the future to check what you may have missed as you progress. But to get to certain blueprints, you have to complete various aspects of the story location, hence there's not a lot of options for avoiding spoilers. With that out of the way, let's get into the third installment of my guides for Chapter 3, Blueprints and Unlockable Characters. To find your first two blueprints, you don't need to visit any story locations at all. That's because you can't find a story location without them, but that's just minor details. The plans for some antenna and receivers can be found floating in either barrels or crates that will drift past you as you progress through the early game and gather resources. Somewhere around once 15 minutes of time have passed in-game, as long as you're hooking in barrels, you'll find these two blueprints eventually. The other non-story related blueprints are all accessed via the trading posts in tiers 2 and 3. By trading, you can unlock the blueprints for all of the advanced crop plots at tier 2, and the blueprints for both the canteen and the detail plank at tier 3. If you need help with understanding the trading posts, I covered all of that information in the first installment of this series, so I would recommend that video to you. But every blueprint past these requires progressing through the story, so let's start with the radio tower. There are 3 things to unlock in the radio tower, and it's a pretty small location, so you shouldn't have too much difficulty finding any of this stuff. The first blueprint is for the headlight, which you will find on the second level of the tower over by the notice board. The other 2 things are all the way at the top of the tower, so after a few jumps you'll see a whiteboard with a blueprint for a recycler on it. Next to the whiteboard there's a figure lounging against the desk. This is Tala, the first unlockable character, who is glad to be rescued from this metal island. But that's everything at the radio tower, so let's move on to the cruise ship. The cruise ship is even easier than the radio tower, as there are only 2 blueprints and they're in the same place. To access them, you'll need to solve all of the appropriate puzzles to gain access to the bridge, but once you do, you'll find the blueprints for the engine and the steering wheel on the left side of the controls. And then we're off to Balboa Island. Balboa is where things start to get a bit more complicated. The most accessible blueprint is for the biofuel refiner, which you can find sitting on a table in the ranger station. You can pretty clearly find that with all of the well-marked signs. The next most obvious blueprint is in the relay station with the bridge that you have to lower. Fun fact, you can either do this the intended way by throwing the rocks lying nearby, or you can actually use your hook. Climbing the tower, you'll find the fuel pipe blueprint. Everything else you'll need the machete for, which you'll find in the cave behind Mama Bear. You can either distract her by filling the blue bin up with the berries you'll find around the island, or you can simply drop in from above. But towards the back of that cave you'll find the blueprint for the machete, which you can then use to cut the vines in this cave to access the last relay station. On the counter towards the left you'll notice the blueprint for the fuel tank, and on a mattress nearby you can introduce yourself to Johnny. With Johnny as part of your growing crew, you can then move on to Caravan Town. To unlock most of the useful stuff around Caravan Town, you'll have to solve a number of puzzles to obtain items, and then assemble those items at a designated location to unlock the associated blueprints. The biggest items you'll probably want are the zipline tool and the battery charger, both of which have multiple pieces spread throughout the island. You'll need the zipline to progress through the story location, so let's start with the zipline stuff first. There are 3 zipline pieces you'll need to collect. The first is hidden in this well, which you'll need to raise up by connecting a series of pipes and flushing water into the well with this pump. The second is available after you launch a small rocket with some explosive powder, and climb this detached island to receive both the zipline part as well as some blueprints for a firework. You'll then get a bonus Major Tom as well. And the last piece is hidden deep underwater in a sunken caravan that you can reach by following the bubbling pipes and stopping for air in these small structures. At the very bottom is the last zipline piece, and also the blueprint for the metal detector. Once you have all of the zipline pieces, head back up to the community center and assemble the zipline at the glowing table to receive the blueprints for the zipline tool and the zipline itself to place on your raft. Then you'll probably want the battery charger. Again, there are 3 pieces that you'll need to find. One is on the docks next to the port office, one is on top of a caravan on top of the mountain, pretty much as far up and east as you can go, and the last one is on a small raised island above the majority of the caravans under a little tent. Once you have all 3 pieces, you'll find another glowing table to assemble this bad boy in the mayor's office, and with that you're ready to head to Tangaroa. Tangaroa's blueprints are pretty linear in terms of what you'll need to do to complete the story location anyways, so you won't have too much difficulty finding these. To access the blueprint for the water pipe, you'll have to complete the box puzzle to make yourself a path to the surface access door, and then the blueprint will be sitting on a crate immediately following that path. For the next blueprint, you'll have to gather a total of at least 12 tape to gain access to the bottom of the elevator, which is where you'll find the blueprint for the electric purifier. If you go up the elevator and work your way over to the central tower, you'll find the blueprint for the large storage on the upper deck. And once you evict the bridge and swim over to it, you'll find the last blueprint for the water tank sitting on a large table next to the code for Varuna Point. But before you head off, be sure to rescue Elaine, who got herself stuck in one of the jump seats in the bridge as you launched it. But with your nearly complete crew, you're ready to head for Varuna Point. You'll need to progress a decent amount of the way through Varuna Point to find your first blueprint for this location, which is the advanced headlight hidden in the Grabber's secret lair. You can only access this area after completing the light bulb puzzle and facing off against a few anglerfish, but this area unlocks access to the rhino shark fight, which you'll need to complete in order to find the next windmill blueprint. This blueprint is sitting on the table in the planning room next to the crane keys, so head up to the top of the crane. If you go towards the back of the crane instead of the long extended arm, you'll find the blueprint for the electric grill. Then once you use the crane key and the controls in the little cabin, you'll gain access to the desk that holds the blueprint for the advanced battery, as well as the code for Temperance. Similarly to Tangaroa, the unlockable stuff at Temperance pretty closely follows what you'll need to do to progress the story, starting with the advanced biofuel refiner blueprint at the top of the big igloo next to the blowtorch you need. The second blueprint is at the end of the observatory. After completing the star locker puzzle to open the locker, you'll find the blueprint for the advanced stationary anchor. Then you can progress normally through the lab until you gain access to the cryo chambers. If you open the only glowing pod, you'll be graced with Shogo's very dignified entrance, completing your journey to find all of the unlockable characters. But there's one more blueprint for the electric smelter, which is right next to the code for Utopia in the cryo chamber room. Last but certainly not least, you have 3 blueprints left to find in Utopia. The first is for the big backpack and can be found inside Dedo's house after completing the digging puzzle. To get the other 2, you'll have to progress a significant amount through this location's story, which I'm attempting to avoid spoiling, so just know that you need to get in this room on top of the marketplace area, and you typically stack a lot of boxes to get up here. Towards the middle of that room, you'll find the blueprint of the electric zipline tool. To find the final blueprint, you'll need to all but complete the game's story, and you'll find the blueprint for some titanium tools sitting on top of a table in this lovely balcony below a specific broken window. And that's all of the blueprints and unlockable characters currently in the game. I did my best to keep this as spoiler-free as possible while still directing you to all the blueprints, so be sure to let me know if these directions were helpful. Also, please let me know what other stuff you'd like to see guides for in the future in the comments down below. I am always looking for suggestions. Anyways, that's it for me for now. I hope you enjoyed. Please consider leaving a like if you did, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. It really helps me out. I hope to see you all again soon, but until then, have a great day.